really centered around permitting, and I think that's one of the things that I will discuss a little bit today is the benefits of being on private ground in the U.S. Both of our principal projects are on private ground, so about 14,000 acres of our 50,000 acres is on private ground. We chose by design to only trade in the U.S., so we trade on the NYSE American under the symbol DC. I'll try to keep a lot of my opinions to myself, but we likely will make a few forward-looking statements. Our two principal projects in the Homestake District in Leeds, South Dakota, the Maitland project, which is contiguous with the Homestake mine just to the north. We've made two discoveries there over the last couple of years. Discovered a new ledge system, which I'll talk to you about in a few minutes. And then our Richmond Hill gold project, which is under option with Barrick. That's about 1.5 miles to the west of Maitland, again on private ground. We came out with a maiden SK 1300 resource at the end of April. We'll also be updating that in early Q1 of 25. So because Homestake has been shut down since 2001, a lot of people don't understand that this is still the largest single gold mine in the history of the U.S. So 40 million ounces of gold came out of the ground here at between 8 and 9 grams. And when Barrick acquired Homestake, they didn't acquire it for assets that Homestake had in South Dakota. They acquired it for other assets in the Homestake portfolio. So we acquired these assets from Barrick out of their closure group in 2020 through end of 21, early 22. And this would really be the third company born out of acquiring assets from Barrick's closure group, with the other two being Skeena and K92. And both of those have done very well. And then just about 1.5 miles south of Richmond Hill is the state's only producing gold mine. It's Wharf. It belongs to Coeur Mining. It does about 85 to 90,000 ounces a year, and it's been a pretty consistent producer and free cash flow generator for Coeur. Again, on private ground, and I'll talk about some of the permitting opportunities that have gone on there. This is really what drove us to put money into this opportunity and to consolidate the district. On the right-hand side of the page, that's the old Homestake mine. So 9 ledges, roughly 40 million ounces of gold. We have more recently recharacterized our discovery at Maitland, which is just on the left-hand side of the page, in that JB zone, where we have multiple high-grade hits in 3 ledges, which we are calling 34, 35, and 36 ledge. Ledges in the Western Ledge System, 17, 19, and 21 ledge. 6 million ounces of the 40 million ounces of gold was mined there. We've analyzed and looked at almost 1,000 drill holes from the data set we acquired from Barrick, which gave us exclusive access to 125 years of data. Similar grade, similar thickness, and we now have 44 high-grade hits into those 3 ledges. Actually, our first discovery we made was in the tertiary epithermal, to which we have renamed the Unionville zone, and that's something that could be very interesting for the Richmond Hill project because it could allow us to potentially blend material. You'll see that North Drift there, that is a discovery that Homestake made back in the mid-90s. And their discovery hole there was 5 meters at 12 grams, so very similar to the kind of mineralization and thickness that we're encountering. We do want to drill the up-dip portion of North Drift later this year and into the first half of 25. As a part of a last-ditch effort to keep the mine open, Homestake did drill a series of widely spaced drill holes north along the corridor, so there are mineralized intercepts in Homestake Formation at Blind Gold, which is another target we'd like to test going forward. So on the right-hand side of the page, that's an image of the option that we have with Barrick. So the option over the old mine was for almost 6,000 acres of private ground, but it gave us exclusive access to all of Homestake's data over its 125-year history, which was invaluable for us to consolidate the district and go from 5,000 acres to almost 50,000 acres, but really informative in this Phase 1 and Phase 2 exploration program, which has led to 2 discoveries on our Maitland project. The area in yellow there, that was the 4.5 meters at 25 grams that we announced in April. that really made James Berry, our Vice President of Exploration, recharacterize our discovery into 3 distinct ledges. So there's a lot of openness here, and that was one of the really appealing aspects of getting involved with this company in this district. Was there wasn't a lot of exploration going on in the district, and despite the active gold mine at Wharf just a few miles to the west, not a lot has been done here over the last 20 years. And these assets sat in Barrick's closure group for almost 20 years. So we show this to try to show that the outline of the mineralization that we've been encountering at our JB zone is a similar footprint to what Homestake mined in the Western Ledge system. So if you look at over 1,000 drill holes that Homestake drilled into the Western Ledges, the average thickness was roughly 6 meters of just under 12 grams. And what we're seeing right now in over 44 mineralized intercepts that we've encountered, we're seeing roughly 4 meters of just over 10 grams. So similar, a lot of room for us. I think the biggest change that we're seeing in the JB zone is that we're encountering mineralization at 1,200 feet, whereas the mineralization in the Western Ledges in the old mine didn't start until 4,000 feet. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of room for us to grow this thing. And again, this is one of 3 windows of mineralized Homestake formation that we've only drilled 1. We know there's a discovery in the North Drift that Homestake made. Homestake did bracket a certain number of ounces around that. So it's certainly a very compelling target with very similar intercepts to what we're seeing in the JB zone. So one of the unique things about Maitland is that we do have an opportunity to hit 2 kinds of mineralization, 2 styles of mineralization. The blue there, that is the tertiary epithermal. That's the Unionville discovery that we made about 18 months ago. We can trace this now for over 2 miles in strike length. And we are encountering Homestake formation as we go both to the north and south into those blind gold and North Drift targets. I will talk just a minute or 2 on the tertiary. So this was James Berry, our Vice President of Exploration, the good-looking chap that you see there on the left. James worked underground at Homestake, was a part of the team that discovered the North Drift discovery, but also spent time working at Wharf Resources within the tertiary. And the tertiary in the district, almost 4 million ounces of gold has been mined from the tertiary. So it's a very compelling opportunity for us. We can trace this structure for now over 2 miles. And you'll see those sub-parallel yellow structures as well that are mineralized. We're not calling them a discovery just yet. We'd like to get a few more pierce points in there. And the discovery hole there was 36 meters of 3.5 grams. This could be an interesting opportunity for us to blend material with Richmond Hill, as the overall grade that we're seeing in the tertiary is more in that 1.5 to 2.5 grams. And we do have some higher grade spikes within that, but certainly a very compelling opportunity for us. And it's open both to the south and north. So a lot of the drill holes that we drill here are designed to go through both kinds of units. And we've had multiple holes that have both tertiary and Homestake mineralization in there. So I'm going to switch over to Richmond Hill now. So this is about 1.5 miles to the west of Maitland on private ground. And again, the experience that I've had with a Nevada bias being on BLM ground, this is something that we think is going to be an 18-month to 2-year timeline to permit. We do have other federal ground. We do have BLM. We do have U.S. Forest Service. So about 14,000 of our 50,000 acres is on private ground. So we came out with a maiden resource, an SK 1300 resource, on April 30th of this year. And when you look at how much money we've spent to acquire the project and how much money we've gone into the ground, our I wouldn't call it a discovery cost because there was a resource there historically, but it's basically $9 an ounce to get to that 2.4 million ounces. So we're drilling here right now. You can see the Chisholm Gulch area to the east and that Richmond Hill area to the south. These are areas where we feel there's a lot of opportunities for us to grow this resource. And one of our objectives as a company is to have the largest gold resource on private ground in the lower 48. Again, we really want to do everything to stay out of the federal radar. In South Dakota, we deal with the DANR, which is the Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources. Coeur just permitted an expansion at Wharf last year. They they disturbed about 250 new acres. That was outside of their plan of operations, and that took them 6 months. So there's a very straightforward platform here, permitting platform. But this deposit is totally open. So there was over 800 historical drill holes here, drilled mostly by lac, mostly very shallow. And I think we've been pleasantly surprised with the areas for this thing to be open and expand within the oxide. We're also going to be introducing a new silver resource to the market. Historically, there was anywhere from kind of 5 to 7 to 1 silver to gold. So it's a nice incremental add-on to this opportunity. And for the volume that we look at right now, we don't think it's a huge arm wave and a stretch to look at potentially doubling the inventory of ounces here. That's certainly one of the goals that we have. So when you look at the depth of the oxide, it's very shallow. We're looking at a sort of sub 1-to-1 strip for that oxide. And February of 2025, we will update this resource to include about 15,000 meters of new drilling, and really have done a lot of work on the metallurgy, variability, hard boundaries. So you will see a significant growth across measured, indicated, and inferred, and of course with introducing that silver component to it. We have done some initial site work for where leach pads could go, and we have a couple of sites that are 70 million tons and up to 130 million tons, which is important from the standpoint of not having to rehandle that material several times. So you look at apples to apples comparison, Richmond Hill and Wharf. Wharf does a marvelous job of operating. Coeur does a marvelous job of operating Wharf. 1250 ASIC, and they rehandle the material up to 5 times. Their largest leach pad is between 4 and 5 million tons, and it's an asset that doesn't require a lot of capital, and that's one of the magical things about it. It generates about $85 to $90 million a year in free cash flow. So the resource, we think that there's an opportunity for us to increase the grade in the oxide to be more in line with what you're seeing at Wharf, which is in that 0.7 to 0.75. Initially, when we picked up this deposit, we thought and we still think there's a lot of opportunities within the mix and the sulfide underneath that oxide cap. We have drilled only 2 of the 5 known breccia pipes here. Our best intercept was 30 meters of 6 grams. So there is high grade here. The 3 holes that you see in that 4th bullet point on the left there, 60 meters of 1.68 grams, 42 of 1.7. There's opportunities for more high grade. That's in the oxide and some mixed. So the areas that we're focusing on now around the Richmond Hill breccia pipe, where you see that big red blob, and the Chisholm Gulch up to the northeast. These are 2 areas that are kind of low-hanging fruit that we think there's a pretty significant opportunity for us to add ounces. And then you'll see a pretty powerful west-northwest trend that goes through that. Chisholm Gulch goes west through the MW3 zone and twin tunnels. We did drill a few holes there last year, intersected good grades. We're going to look to try to fill in that gap as well. And again, consistent with our strategy of consolidating as much private ground as we could through some of those acquisitions has opened up new areas of opportunity for Richmond Hill. And so this southeast Richmond Hill area is an opportunity that we're going to get a few holes into this year. The cutoff for drilling into the resource for February of 2025 is November 1st. We've got a few sites located and that Perkins Goodell, and these are all shallow oxide. Lac Minerals and St. Jude did drill a few holes here that we did get as a part of the acquisitions with Barrick. We got all of that data as well. So there's a lot of openness to this deposit. And again, similar to what happened in Nevada in the late 80s, 90s, a lot of companies were drilling very shallow 100-meter holes, 150-meter holes with RC. So we were really the first company that came in here with a core rig, and it really opened up our eyes to what this thing could become. So February, updating the resource. May, we'll look at having a initial assessment with cash flow. So because we're a U.S. company, that's what it's called, but it's a PEA. That'll be May, and that'll be an oxide and the portion of mix that can go onto a leach pad, plus the silver. We'll host conference calls with both, but the objective is to get that out, the resource out just before the BMO conference, and then kind of May time period for the initial assessment with cash flow. So when we first put this company together, it was absolutely imperative for us to have boots on the ground, to have strong local ties to the community. Almost all of our employees at our head office and lead are from South Dakota, went to the South Dakota School of Mines. Bob Quartermain, who's one of our co-chairs and the second largest shareholder of the company, does not receive any compensation. What he would normally receive as non-exec chair goes into supporting our annual ESG causes. And we've had zero issues with any pushback from the community. Just a couple of changes here. BMO recently launched coverage. That was a few weeks ago. That was great to get them involved. Orion is our largest shareholder. So we have a financing package in place should we choose to build something or acquire something for up to $300 million. And that's a long-standing relationship that Bob has had with Orion. They came in at the end of Gold Standard and bought a 9.9% stake. Pretty good registry. We are in the GDXJ. There's some rebalancing going on this Friday, and the Russell 3000. The other co-chair is Steve O'Rourke, very active, former head of global exploration for BHP. He's a large shareholder, went to the South Dakota School of Mines, lives in Rapid City, so he's taken on a much more active role. Technically, this company is really led by Jerry Aberley, who was the last mine manager when Homestake shut down, and James Berry, who worked both underground at Homestake and for Wharf Resources. We did manage to hire Patrick Malone, who ran Barrick's North American Closure Group, so someone who's an expert at navigating the different state and federal agencies, and he's going to be a really key person for us as we look to permit Richmond Hill. So again, really focused on Maitland and Richmond Hill. Again, both are on private ground. Ultimately, at Maitland, we will have to get underground to drill off the Homestake style of mineralization. We may look to put out a resource for the Unionville discovery within the epithermal tertiary there at Maitland, and we'd like to keep these two rigs active there. Our other two rigs are going to be over at Richmond Hill, looking at accelerating getting this resource out in February, economic study with cash flow in May, and then going straight to a fees. Both of our co-chairs are supportive. We've socialized with the board. But just to summarize, this is a brand new discovery of a new ledge system contiguous with America's largest gold mine on private ground, with one of 3 target windows that we've only drilled. And Richmond Hill is something that on private ground, oxide, shallow, something that's bite-sized and very manageable for us to move forward and develop on our own. So Kerry, I've got a minute and a half left. I guess I'll maybe stop for some questions.
Yeah, sure. Let's just see if anybody does have a question. Rob, John, do you want to sort of hazard a guess as to what it would cost you or how much more drilling would be required or dollars to get to a resource at JB? Because that obviously could be significantly larger prize.
Look, one of the things that I think we're getting better at is targeting. We are utilizing directional drilling, Kerry. But I would say that in terms of confidence to get underground, in terms of getting the market buying in, it's probably another $10 to $15 million for us to be in that place to go underground. For James, he wants to go underground right now. He already has seen enough. But again, in terms of the market, I don't think the market's really bought in and has woken up yet to this is a brand new discovery contiguous with America's largest gold mine on private land.
Okay. Here, Adrian has a quick question. Got 30 seconds, Adrian.
I'll be quick. This is an option from Barrick. First of all, is it both of the projects, Maitland and Richmond?
So Maitland, Adrian, we own 100% of.
Okay.
Okay, the option is over the old mine
Okay.
and over Richmond Hill.
Okay. And what are the terms of that option?
If we exercise, we assume the bonds. So we're in discussions with them to not have to actually post the bond until either receipt of final permit or commercial production.
So pretty modest. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, that's all the time we've got. Thank you, John. I appreciate